Have you ever wondered how we got 3 Catholic churches here in LaPorte, or why some of them are only a stone's throw away from each other? Join me for a brief tour and history of our LaPorte churches, a history that takes us back almost 170 years. I'm standing here in front of the statue of St. Peter here at St. Peter Church, the first church that was established here in LaPorte back in 1853. However, St. Peter was not the initial name of this church. It was actually named Nativity of the Blessed Virgin Mary Catholic Church. It wasn't the original church structure that was here, but was located at 1114 Monroe Street, just adjacent to the current school building. Out of the 3 church locations in LaPorte, St. Peter is the only one where none of the original buildings are still intact. This building, the new church, was built in 1930, so 91 years ago. Come with me inside and I'll show you. Here in the current church building, built in 1930, you'll find in the upper story the Munich windows created to honor different scenes in the Bible and in the sacraments. This church was completed in 1930, but it wasn't until 2005 that it underwent a major renovation in the interior. This church has special significance for me because I was baptized in this church 30 years ago, altar served in this church for many years, and finally celebrated my first Mass as a priest right in this altar 4 years ago. Back in the mid-1850s, you had this great influx of Irish immigrants, and they formed the community that would become St. Peter's on Michigan Avenue. But there was a group of German immigrants who wanted to worship in their own tongue. And so what was their solution? They moved 3 blocks this way and built this church here, St. Joseph, on C Street and 2nd Street. Most people don't know this, but this is actually the original church structure and original rectory from 1858 when the church was founded. It wasn't until 1908, the 50th anniversary of the church, that the church was expanded to be about twice its original size, and there were additions made on the rectory. Back then, you just saw the dark brick on the outside, and it wasn't until 1922 that this ashlar cut stone was put on the facade of the church and rectory that we see today. One of the renovations that took place in 1929 renovations is the mural on the ceiling of St. Joseph depicting the death of St. Joseph surrounded by the Blessed Mother and Jesus himself. This is a painting by John Kirsch of Wisconsin. St. Joseph has a rich history and it's changed demographics over the years. Perhaps the most significant change that's occurred in recent memory is the influx of the Hispanic community here at St. Joseph. The Hispanic community is probably the most active Catholic community here in LaPorte Catholic Church and are marked by the cultural image of Our Lady of Guadalupe, patroness of the Americas. The Polish immigrants who came here to LaPorte had quite a difficult time adapting early on. There was the language barrier, but also the fact that they had arrived after a lot of the other immigrant groups here to LaPorte. For that reason, they wanted to establish a parish. So in 1913, Sacred Heart Church was established. This building, the original church structure, was built in 1913 at the cost of $20,000, if you can imagine that. We're inside the new Sacred Heart Church, which was built in 1971 and has been serving this community for the last 50 years. This was built shortly after the Second Vatican Council with a new style of architecture that was different from the old church building. Our Lady of Częstochowa is the iconic Marian image of the Polish culture. Częstochowa is a town in Poland where people will take days-long pilgrimages to walk either on foot or some other way to get to Częstochowa. A few years ago, Sacred Heart experienced a need for a lot more meeting space, just the old facilities weren't cutting it. So they built in 2013, on the 100th anniversary of the parish's inception, a new Sacred Heart Activity Center, which includes a gathering space for everyone, a kitchen, new bathrooms, and new meeting spaces for all of the staff to gather. As you can see, our churches remained separate for many years. But back in 2016, initial steps for unification were taken when Father Ian was placed in charge of all 3 churches here in LaPorte, thus taking 3 ethnically diverse parishes and bringing them into one vibrant parish community. Our Mass schedules have been coordinated, our priests are shared, and our many programs and ministries in the churches have been combined. So I invite you to join us in our mission to become a family of disciples rooted in Jesus Christ. Be a family, be disciples.